I think we can all agree that 2017 was a nonstop series of challenges for business continuity and disaster recovery professionals. From fires to floods, from earthquakes to storms, and let's not forget a massive cyber breach or two. It was a year that taught a lot of resilience lessons. Now, we need to understand how to apply those lessons to the year ahead. I'm Russell Wooldridge, Senior Director of Business Development for DRI International, welcoming you to our first webinar of 2018. Today, we're here with Chloe Domrovsky, President and CEO of DRI International, and Lyndon Bird, DRI International's Chief Knowledge Officer and Chair of the Future Vision Committee, the DRI Global Think Tank on matters of operational resilience, discipline integration, and the future role of resilience professionals. We'll be discussing the findings of the committee's third annual trends report, looking back on the year that was and seeing what might be next around the bend. This and previous reports are available for download at the DRI Resource Library at drii.org. If you have any questions during the webinar, please type them in the lower left-hand corner of your screen. We'll collect them and provide Chloe and Lyndon's answers in a special post that we'll link to in an upcoming issue of Drive. And special thanks to our webinar sponsor, OnSolve. Between the webinar presentations, we'll have an opportunity to learn a little about OnSolve's cloud-based alert and communication systems. Chloe, why don't you start us off? What's your view on 2017 and the resilience field?
Thank you, Russell. It's a privilege to address you all as we begin a new year. And what a year did we just finish? 2017 was a year that tested your resolve, your plans, and your preparation. Your stories through this difficult season have been so inspiring to us. You helped to ensure safe delivery of 100 Hurricane Harvey babies, you installed tents for needy Americans in Puerto Rico, and you revised protocols for responding to earthquakes in Mexico City. It is for all these reasons, and so many more, that we celebrate you. At DRI, 2017 was a year of transitions. We transitioned our leadership team. We released the most comprehensive rewrite of the professional practices for business continuity management in our history. And as a result of that effort, we then overhauled all of our certification training programs and exams. As if that wasn't ambitious enough, we transitioned our database and website so that we can better serve you in a changing technology landscape. Additionally, while we may be headquartered in New York, we understand and fulfill our obligation to serve our worldwide community. That's why we opened an office in London. From there, we can better serve the European market, which is our fastest growing region. We are confident that all of this hard work will serve as the foundation on which DRI will continue to grow. After all that, what's next for DRI? Among so many other things, it's the year DRI turns 30. At 30, DRI is focused on growing the profession and expanding our reach. With 15,000 plus certified professionals in over 100 countries and thousands of students taking our certification preparation courses each year, it is clear that others are catching on to what you already know. A DRI credential holds value at the global level. In 2018, DRI will offer more innovative approaches to credential verification and ways to get the word out about your expertise, adding still more value to your certification. But while certification serves as the gateway to the profession, DRI is also your go-to resource for the ongoing education and training that is critical to success in our ever-evolving profession. DRI is so much more than a certifying body. It is a platform for sharing ideas, solutions, and innovation. A part of that commitment means continuing to deliver our popular webinar series with this first webinar of 2018, which is dedicated to predictions and trends. As I am sure Lyndon will discuss in detail, there is much uncertainty on the horizon, but the future looks bright for those professionals who can help ward off challenges like IT failure and cyber disruption. We are here to help you do that through initiatives like these. It's why in 2017 we published more white papers and studies than ever before. We increased the frequency of these webinars and even held our first webinar in Spanish. We hosted DRI conferences in China, the Philippines, Brazil, the United Kingdom, Poland, and Italy, and held dozens of smaller events hosted by local committees in various countries. Additionally, Our Young Leaders in Resilience Committee hosted quarterly peer-to-peer knowledge sharing and networking events to inspire and recruit the next generation. But the crown jewel of our outreach is our annual international conference. It is where the DRI Foundation highlights the giving spirit of our DRI community. Among our activities, our Women in BCM committee published a landmark study about the state of gender representation in business continuity at the global level. For the second straight year, the mayor of the host conference city has conferred the honor of a DRI Foundation Day proclamation to acknowledge our Volunteer Day held on the Saturday before each annual conference. We awarded 2 student scholarships to the children of certified professionals who demonstrated their in-depth interest in the issues of this field through thoughtful essays. And our Veterans Outreach Program created a program to award scholarships to qualified candidates transitioning from active duty through which they attend our training and become certified. Dozens of scholarships have been awarded already. The conference is also where our committees come together to discuss unique challenges as a profession and brainstorm solutions. It is where you can join us to network with the leaders of the profession, get involved with the important work of creating standards and best practices, and join our prestigious committees. So we encourage you to look out for how you can participate by attending our events both online and in person. We are here to help you chart the course of your career and open up opportunities for you to get more involved. With that, I hope that you enjoyed today's webinar. I'll now turn it over to Lyndon. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Lyndon Bird. I'm the Chief Knowledge Officer for DRI International. The presentation today is about Trends and Predictions, which is an annual report produced by the DRI Future Visions Committee, which I'm privileged to be the chair. Part of my role with the chair of the Future Visions Committee is to conduct the annual survey and to look at the results and to produce the reports that you will be hearing today. This year, we're extremely excited because it's the first time we've opened the survey to the full DRI professional certificate holder base. This, we think, gives additional credibility to our results and makes them extremely informative and interesting to resilience professionals throughout the world. The first question I'm often asked when we talk about the trends and predictions is why do we do this? Why is it important? And I think it's fairly self-evident why trends are important to the resilience profession. We need to know what is happening in the world. Not everything that's happening in the world is something we can do anything about. Much of it is beyond our control. But most things that happen in the world will have some effect on resilience professionals. So we want to know how they will affect our roles, our jobs, and what we can do about it. And we sometimes also want to know whether we need to change. What we're doing is enough? Do we need to do it in a different way? Is it still appropriate to the needs of business? And secondly, the predictions report, which is just an extension of the trends. We're trying to guess what might happen in the short term. So in our predictions report, we are not future gazing. Particularly, we are just looking at short term. We're saying, well, what might happen in the next year, or perhaps next 2 years. So we are looking at realistic things that might happen. We're also asking ourselves the question: if they do, are we ready to respond to them as professionals? Are there things that we can actually deal with? Do we need more resources? Do we need more skills? Are there the things that we can deal with? And are our solutions appropriate? As risks change, as particular outcomes of those risks become more severe, do we have to think outside the traditional box of business continuity and disaster recovery? Do we need to think of different solutions? So that is why we think that this particular annual survey is so important. It actually keeps us in touch with what's going on in the world and makes us challenge what we do. Okay, I would like to start with some summary of what the general trends we found. Now, we've obviously, if you take the opportunity to download the reports, they are long reports. I can't go through all of the detail today, but I'd just like to run through 8 key trends that we found from the reports. These are not trends relating to what's happening in the world specifically. We're not talking about political change or environmental issues at any technical level. What we're talking about is how our profession, the resilience profession, is being impacted by the trend. So one of the things we found in analyzing the results of hundreds of response from various DRI certified holders is that the core competencies of what people do still remain quite similar to what they have been before. We are still largely seen as a discipline that deals with disruptive risk. And that disruptive risk is usually physical interruptions. And generally speaking, people perceive what we do at a tactical and operational level. I'll come on to that, whether that's a correct assumption or not later, but that is how it appears to be being still perceived. The second trend that we realize from our feedback is that our professionals actually have a very good understanding of a wide range of various risk issues beyond that which is traditional business continuity. Typically, cyber is a very good example of this. Everyone recognizes the risks that cyber poses to our organizations, to our communities, in fact, to our world. And our professionals have a very good understanding of how these should be addressed in business terms, if not in specific technical terms. But often, that expertise is not fully utilized by organizations. They put business continuity, disaster recovery, other resilience areas into silos that do not necessarily interrelate, and therefore the expertise that various parts of that resilience organization have are not shared to the benefit of the total organization. So we see a need for that, and we see that our professional expertise could be better utilized often than it is. A third trend is that a very recent realization by top management that it's not things that you do often which causes you big problems and causes disruption to your organization and to your operations. It's what your suppliers do. So supply chain disruption is increasingly being perceived as an issue that business continuity needs to get involved with. However, it still appears that most of the business continuity involvement in this is trying to come up with solutions to an interrupt. What do we do in the event of a supplier failure? What do we do in the event of a supplier disruption due to an incident at their site or with transportation problems? So it is still seen very much at what do we do when things go wrong, whereas there are many opportunities within supply chain management, of course, to look at how you can strategically reduce the likelihood of disruption and not have a fundamental disruption to your supply chain by one incident. So the business continuity aspect of it is still not being fully incorporated, I think, into the supply chain disruption programs, but it is moving in the correct direction. Continuing with the resilience trends, we can say that clearly the resilience profession has broadened and matured into all business sectors. Gone are the days when predominantly the people in our industry were largely in finance or IT. It's now all business sectors, public and private, across the world, all sectors, energy, retail, manufacturing, services, insurance, as well as the more traditional areas of financial services and banking. Next one is that there is a generally consistent global understanding of approach to BC and DR and resilience management across the world. There's much written about maturity, about the subject being more mature in the United States, rest of North America, in Europe, and perhaps less so in Asia. We have not seen evidence of that. We've seen a clear consistency of the understanding of the need for and the approaches and the techniques used, and they've been pretty consistent across the world. We have seen an increase in the merging of crisis management and business continuity. which are typically been seen as separate disciplines. Crisis management largely about the external perception, business continuity and disaster recovery largely about how you internally manage that disruption. We are now seeing those very much coming together under the same banner and an understanding that you need to be able to manage your continuity as part of your crisis management, and that crisis management will always be part of your continuity programs. So these two are being merged much more than we've seen in the past. However, surprisingly, we've seen less integration with other resilience disciplines than we would have expected to see. We would have expected to see risk, security, and business continuity much more integrated by now than actually we are emerging from our survey. So that's a little bit of a surprise to us. We expected to see a quicker consolidation within a risk framework than we actually are observing. And then the final one, which is one that those of us in the profession will have understood for many years, is that our work is probably not fully understood beyond the confines of our own areas. So we're not probably appreciated in too many businesses, because clearly if things go right, no one worries, and if things go wrong, it's our job to sort it anyway, and we take it for granted in that way. So I think the work that is done is not fully understood or appreciated. And despite the best efforts of the DRI and other communication vehicles that talk a lot about the subject, I still think that within organizations, what a professional does is not fully understood widely amongst other management areas. Now, turning to the trends report and how we constructed it, we as a committee identified a number of high-level key risks that we wanted people to think about. Clearly, if you want to identify risks, you can come up with hundreds of them. You can take them down to any level of granularity that you want to. But we decided that we would stick to key risks. We'd keep it to 20, and we keep it at the big ones. And the big ones really are relating to cyber, to IT interruptions, to general security breaches and privacy, to supply chain problems, other issues that we are quite often involved with, such as pandemics, and then some more issues that are perhaps normally not within the remit too much of resilience and business continuity, such as the consequences of a financial crash, the consequences of political uncertainties, wider scale attacks such as CBRN attacks on a city. So we brought more of those wider risks in to get views of. And we asked the views of all the people who participated in the survey, first of all, which they thought were most likely to occur in the short term within their organization, which their organizations would likely to be suffer from. And if they did, which are the ones that provided the highest level of impact and concern. And we applied to those two sets of results a factor to produce what we called a resilience index. And interestingly, then the top of our resilience index, when we combined those together, came out in this particular order. The top resilience issue, right, for our professions was considered to be major IT interruption, normally caused by technical malfunctions or human errors. The second one was extreme natural disasters. Third one, perhaps a little surprisingly, because it may well have, some people may have felt this would have come at number one, but thirdly, in our survey came out cyber crime in the sense of criminal activities, ransomware and attacks. Fourth came down global financial crash, which was particularly relating to what I think the IT consequences of dealing with such a crash and what that would mean across the whole environment in that sense. So I think it was the consequences and the technical operational consequences that people were answering here, rather than the financial plumbing of the world's financial system. Surprisingly, also, social media and reputational damage came very high in this. particularly bearing in mind that the input for this survey were mainly resilience professionals who maybe have not had so much input in the past to reputational damage management. Information security inadequacy of was reported. State-sponsored cyber attack was very high in terms of potential impact, but it was seen as less likely in terms of frequency, and that's probably why it came down the resilience index a little. Wide-scale flooding, critical national infrastructure failures, and man-made disasters made up the top 10. Probably there, with the possible exception of the financial crash and the media reputational damage, not really much of a surprise, I would have thought, for us as professionals in this field. We also asked them in a set of different questions, but so that we could cross-check in a different way what they're normally involved with. What are the things that professionals deal with in their day-to-day business life? And interestingly, then we made a list of 10 of those, and pleasingly, 7 of the 10 were on the high-level resilience index. So we are actually working at the things that are considered to be important, and pleasingly, the top 1 and 2 were exactly the same. There were, interestingly, 3 items that came in the DRI professionals workload that didn't get in the top 10. One of those was the terrorist attacks. The second one was pandemics and epidemics, and the third one was general random attacks of extreme violence. But these are clearly events which are rare but of high consequence, and therefore they are ones which typically will be dealt with by business continuity and resilience professionals in their organization. So that's not surprising that those would find themselves into the list of what professionals normally are involved in. So that was pretty consistent information compared with our resilience index. What was also interesting to quickly look at is what DR professionals normally don't get involved with. And again, not too many surprises here. Non-compliance on data protection legislation, I think that one may change. I think that is going to be a key issue for the future. But at the moment, that was not seen as something that was particularly in the DRI professionals' handbook of regular work. CBR attacks, critical national infrastructure, and military conflicts are almost certainly seen as outside of the scale of what we would be dealing with, unless we were involved as in particular roles within military or police or government themselves to deal with that. They were seen as national issues that we were interested in. There were things that we couldn't perhaps influence on a day-to-day basis. Political uncertainties were too vague, really, to work out what resilience professionals would do with it. And again, consequences of a global financial crash. Although we see that as important, we felt that we're not actually get involved too much in planning for this situation. And one of the areas that we did feel we're missing a trick on here, or companies are missing a trick on, is that if you're planning for the aftermath of a financial crash, even the aftermath of an organization going out of business, financial institutions now have to have what is known as a living will, how they would be able to go to business without causing total destruction of the financial system and contamination across the whole system. So the idea of living will, which is planning for what would we do if this happened, very much fits in with the skill set that we as resilience professionals have. So I think involvement with resilience professionals in things like developing living wills, what you would do if your business went under and how you would protect the ongoing activities, I think is an interesting opportunity for our professionals to get involved with. But I think some of those other issues, it's probably quite understandable that we don't get involved with at a detail level. One concern that the DRI has picked up on and emphasized in a number of its reports and comments since this report was produced was this one, which is about cyber. Many business continuity professionals consider cyber risk the biggest problem they face. However, more than 50% of those surveyed felt they had no or very little direct involvement with planning response measures for cyber breaches, which is both surprising and a little concerning, because the people with the skills to understand how you plan for response and how you test and how you exercise and how you train people and how you build awareness are usually the resilience and business continuity people. And yet more than 50% of them felt they had very little involvement in this. So I think this is an area of concern and an area that organizations need to address their understanding that cyber is not just technical response, it's actually about how you manage the whole impact across the whole of your organization, both to mitigate the problems caused by cyber, but also to quickly respond to those things. So I think this is a big challenge for business continuity, for resilience, for disaster recovery, for all of our areas, and I think companies need to understand that cyber is more than technical security. So we're moving on to the predictions. The predictions is more for us some fun, really, because clearly predictions are pretty certain to go wrong if you make them too specific. So what I think you have to see these predictions is a realistic interpretation of what might happen given the world as we see it today. This year, we decided to be more focused, to predict things relating to our subject, whereas in previous years we've been a little more general and made political suggestions and economic suggestions about various parts of the world. We felt we would focus more. Our feedback from previous surveys has asked us to focus more on our specialization. So we've done that this year, and these are the 10 areas we decided to make a prediction for. I'm not going to go through the predictions today. We don't have time to do so, and also it's more fun if you download the report and look at them and point and say that they're completely daft, because that's not going to happen. Or come up with your own predictions. Predictions are always fun, and we get some of them right, and we probably get more of them wrong. But that's pretty much the name of the game, making predictions. So you perhaps should see them rather as examples of what might happen in these categories, rather than exact predictions of a precise nature. But nevertheless, I think they're interesting to do, and they certainly add possibilities for us as professionals, that we may be able to take some of these predictions and turn those into scenarios which we can use in our exercises. So again, some value, I think, out of making predictions, and hopefully you do find them useful and interesting. So just to conclude what I've got to tell you today, there's a couple of key things which really summarizes both of these sets of reports, and that is that our disciplines are more and more and more strategic in corporate thinking. The reason for that is that the losses are so great. People have taken some time to realize the extent of losses that can happen due to disruption. And cyber has been the thing, I think, that has pushed that into corporate boardrooms to understand the immense losses that can happen in a very short time. So losses have become so large that the whole idea of resilience management is now strategic. Unfortunately, we feel that the practices being adopted are still mainly at the tactical and operational level. So organizations need to address that. They need to understand that much of what we can do in resilience management has got to be about prevention and about mitigation, because we can't just deal with recovery, because recovery is too late, and recovery is being the tactical and operation end of this. So the strategic end, I think we need to bring our profession much more into line with other strategic areas of the business. And I think corporate management needs to understand that more as well. And the second conclusion that I feel is important to make the point, which I've slightly mentioned on the way through the presentation, is we thought 3 years ago that it's inevitable that risk management, business continuity, information security would merge much more than it has done. We still seem, in our view, to be quite a long way from any acceptance of a common overarching resilience management discipline. Every silo has its own glossary, its own methodologies, its use of its own jargon. And I think we have quite a long way to go to bring those together so that we can say there is a clear resilience management discipline. So I think there's a lot of work to be done in that field. So finally, to end the presentation tonight, I'd just like to thank you for listening. Remind you that you can, of course, download the reports from the DRI Resource Library. The information there is presented to you. If any of you are particularly interested in some of the comments I've made or things I say, or you've got anything you'd like to challenge or disagree or agree with in the reports, then please feel free to email me. You can email me at thedri.org by my normal email address, and I will do my best to answer all of them as quickly as I can. Those of you in Nashville will have a presentation which will be similar to this but more extensive with more detail. So I hope to see many of you there. So hope you can all join us in Nashville. So thank you very much.
Thanks so much to today's presenters. My name is Amanda Cupp, and I would like to share with you all briefly about OnSolve. OnSolve is a leading global provider of SaaS-based critical communication solutions for enterprise, SMB, and government customers. Our cloud-based software communications platform provides seamless and easy-to-deploy solutions for the exchange of critical information among organizations, their people, devices, external entities, with use cases designed to save lives, enhance revenue, and reduce costs. You may recognize some of these industry-leading mass notification brands that are all supported under OnSolve. The Code Red solution provides high-speed notification services capable of reaching millions of people in minutes and has applied its mission-critical capabilities to government, commercial, healthcare, and other end markets. Our MIR3 solution is the most complete solution available for large enterprises and federal agencies seeking to manage critical events or national disasters through the transmission of important information and instructions. Semware now is the leading worldwide software provider of critical communication solutions. Its easy-to-use, web-based emergency notification, enterprise collaboration, and mobile applications are used by organizations worldwide to ensure fast, effective two-way communication when it's needed the most. I'd like to discuss with you briefly why our customers choose to partner with OnSolve as their communication provider of choice. Once you're on board with OnSolve, there are no surprise fees or additional expenses to access our implementation services and 24/7, 365 customer support. This total and open access gives our clients peace of mind and delivers our always-on solving problems promise. We work with you to ensure your success with our solution. We want to collaborate with our clients and form partnerships that not only aid in your use of our service, but also make us the better critical communication solution. Our customer success is our success. Now more than ever, security plays a key role in our clients' decision to partner with us as their notification vendor of choice. We are security policy-based and hold a number of security and privacy standards. OnSolve hosts and manages its own equipment and co-location data centers. We are geographically dispersed throughout the United States, Canada, and Europe. Our world-class data centers are audited to AICPA's SOC2 Type 2 standard. In an emergency, every second counts. Our service is comprised of the highest level of communication technology so that even a lower-level user can use our service before, during, or after a critical event. We have been in this business for over 20 years, and thousands of organizations of all types and sizes use our service to send their critical alerts. We are a highly awarded company in service. We received the CIR Cloud Services Provider of the Year Award and the DRI Notification System of the Year Award. Most recently, we received the Regional BCI America's Continuity and Resilience Innovation 2017 Award, which recognizes the best and most innovative companies in the continuity and resilience industry across the United States. So whether your organization is a small to medium business, an enterprise, or a government agency, OnSolve cloud-based communication platforms provide seamless deployment to exchange critical information quickly and efficiently. You can learn more at onsolve.com.
Thanks to Chloe and Lyndon for their presentation. I want to draw your attention to one more thing, the continuing education opportunities through DRI International. Not everyone has time or resources for a full 5-day course, which is why we've developed a series of short online educational programs to keep certified professionals on top of their game and maintaining their certification levels with subjects like metrics, ITDR, supply chain, and bridging the BC knowledge gap. Visit drii.org/education for more information. If you want your organization to enjoy the same recognition that individual professional certification provides, you need to know about Hub of Resilience and Resilient Enterprise designations, as well as assessment of organizational resilience through the Resilient Enterprise Assessment Process, or REAP. Established to recognize organizations that have demonstrated extraordinary commitment to preparedness and resiliency, the Hub of Resilience and Resilient Enterprise are DRI's official Standard of Excellence designations. To learn if your organization meets our stringent requirements, go to drii.org/Hub of Resilience or drii.org/Resilient Enterprise. As a reminder, if you submitted a question, our speakers will respond in a special post on DRI's biweekly e-newsletter drive, which will be published when the webinar is made available on the DRI website at the link you see on your screen. If you still have questions that we didn't cover, please feel free to call us at 866-542-3744. A recording of this and all other DRI webinars are posted on drii.org. I'm Russell Wooldridge. This webinar has been a production of DRI International 2018, all rights reserved. Thank you for your attention.